If we think about the relationship between citizens and the government and consumers and companies, there are four things that we will need to grapple with. First, how do we ensure transparency? How do we ensure that people have a right to know in an appropriate way what governments and companies are doing? Second, how do we ensure the public has appropriate control over personal information? Of course, individual citizens don't have the right to determine whether they're investigated by the government. But the public as a whole, absolutely, in any democratic society, should have the right to control what the government does through the rule of law. And similarly, I believe that consumers should have the right to determine how their information is used by companies through appropriate notice and consent and management of the use of information. Third, how do we ensure accountability? In the government context, the executive branch needs to be accountable to the courts. That's why the issue of FISA court reform remains so important. When it comes to companies, I believe that companies do need to be accountable to regulators through regulation. It needs to be well-designed regulation, it needs to be thoughtful, it needs to be balanced, but we cannot live in the Wild West when we're talking about information that is this important to people. And finally, how do we ensure international norms and collaboration so information can cross borders when it should? These are the four questions that we will need to grapple with in capital after capital around the world. In closing, I would say this: technology is a tool. It is a tool that, at its best, empowers people. It is a tool that needs to serve people. Equally, governments exist to serve people. We need to come together. We need to ensure that important issues of public safety are addressed, but we need to do so in a way that ensures as well that technology in the 21st century continues to serve people. That's what this conversation is all about.